Hello and welcome to another video in the Blade series. Today, Scott and I will be looking into whether you can trust your new AI buddy with that top secret information. As AI bots like ChatGPT, Copilot, Gemini, or other AI platforms become more widely available, this question should be on the top of everyone's mind. Scott, I don't think we've reached the era of self-motivated AI yet.
Not yet, thank God.
So we better concentrate on how the bad guys can leverage those AI tools to get at your data.
Absolutely.
With that in mind, let's focus today's discussion on one type of vulnerability that preys on ChatGPT's ability to use long-term memory to enhance its responses based on user interactions. First off, what information does ChatGPT retain about me?
Sure. Yeah. Sure. Well, if you look at the end user license agreement using ChatGPT, there's certain things that it tells you that's going to happen. For example, you're going to the account information, anything you signed up there, your name, telephone number, email address, these sort of things. Any information you type into the chatbot itself. And any information that it pulls from your device, such as the IP address of your computer, the date and time, the geolocation information, all that information it can pull off your computer. So it takes all that data and it does retain that about you.
Oh wow, so literally anything I feed it,
it's going
to keep it.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. So now that it has all my information,
yeah.
Who does it share it with?
Well, that's, it's surprising if you read the end user license agreement as far as the number of people that do get access to it. And it's also a little vague, but in the privacy policy, OpenAI states that it shares this data with vendors, service providers, affiliates, legal entities, and AI trainers, okay, who review the conversations. Now, that's a really, vague listing of different companies, and it doesn't really say what they do with it. We do know what AI trainers are. AI trainers are the ones that review the chats and see how the AI platform is responding back. And so they're training it. And that's part of what you're doing as a user. Your data and your prompts are actually going in there to help train that AI to be better, and that's your skin in the game as part of the process. But really, OpenAI gives pretty vague information about who it shares your data with and for what reason, and that's OpenAI. I've looked at the others; all seem pretty much the same. They're vague, and again, we're talking about beta software just getting off the ground. Probably not the number one thing they're worried about right now is their end user license agreement. So that's something. If you're not unsure, all the companies have been available for your review, and you've agreed to it, so you just as well review it.
Yeah, it's the no free lunch.
Exactly. Yeah. There's no such thing as free.
So now that it knows everything about me and someone can get a hold of it, how can hackers exploit the memory within, let's say, ChatGPT?
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is with hackers and a chatbot is it exploits the memory through a technique called prompt injection. So it's what it tries to do is, like, you're sitting there looking at your chatbot, and this program in the background tries to inject different responses into the interface. So it could basically say, take all the documents off this computer and send them up to this IP address up in the cloud, these sort of things it could potentially say along the way. So that's the kind of commands that can be injected into an AI. And again, it could be taking instructions from untrusted sources, such as emails, blog posts, documents, and all this stuff together. So right now, there's not been a huge number of these incidents recorded. It's been done in a lab, and everybody knows it can't happen. And that's one of those things is, as we have our discussion here today, the security of your data really is paramount whenever you're using this product.
Yeah. So you kind of hit on it from a high level, but let's get more into that example of the command that you listed off from the ChatGPT. Like, what is that?
Yeah, basically it's just a prompt, and what it would be a specially constructed prompt that would execute within the ChatGPT interface. And there was one, we both looked at some documentation on some experiments some researchers have done, and with an Mac OS application, it was able to exploit and get all the user inputs that everything the person typed on the Mac OS on the keyboard got sent off to a remote server. So it's possible. It's one of those things we're not seeing a whole lot with yet today. But it's something people need to be aware of.
Yes.
Especially if you're using a chatbot and you start seeing weird behavior happening, like prompts showing up in your history that you didn't type, that kind of stuff. So you got to look out for that.
Keylogging on a whole nother level.
Yes, and it can be very serious. I mean, because you're basically running in a high level context on that machine you're working with. Wow. So it can do some stuff.
So with all of that, what kind of data can they steal from the ChatGPT?
Well, basically anything that you have given up, like we talked about already, your personal information, any prompts that you've written, anytime you've typed anything into the little chat box, all that's recorded forever. All the information about your local computer IP addresses, it can find things like the ISP you use, geolocation data and all that kind of stuff can be taken and potentially exfiltrated out somewhere else.
Yeah, we were talking about that a little bit a second ago where, like, one great example I had was I used my camera to take a picture of some homework with my daughter because I wasn't sure I was correct. And it dawned on me while we were sitting here talking that you shouldn't have a camera in a secure environment, but if you did, they could even somehow get the pictures, which if you had secret information in the background or in front of you, or if you used it to take a picture of a schematic, it could get that.
Well, and photos have embedded data that talk about the geolocation and things like that. So, potentially somebody's gotten this picture of this homework and known exactly, which room in the house your daughter lives in. That kind of stuff.
Map it back to Google Maps.
And find out which window to knock on.
They know where my daughter is. So
that's the kind of stuff you got to look out for. When data gets away from you, bad things happen. So, and that's the thing.
So because there's always misinformation out there. So what misconceptions do we have about the AI tools?
Sure. Well, all the chatbots we have out there now, they're not a unique application in that, there's Microsoft Word, there's, Microsoft Edge, there's Firefox, all these other applications. ChatGPT is just one more application. And just like all these other guys can have security vulnerabilities. Like we know Microsoft Windows every month, second Tuesday, right? It's the patch Tuesday. You get all your patches from Microsoft. Same idea with these other ones. So that's the thing. We have to treat the chatbots just like we treat Microsoft Word or Microsoft Windows or other things, in that it needs maintenance, it needs updates and patching all the time. And also, my personal opinion would be, if I was a sysadmin and there's a lot of this traffic going on my network, I'd also want to do some network analysis and see, and take a closer look at what's going on in my network. Where's this traffic going? Because you might be able to head off, potential exfiltration, things like that. But I'd like to see that data, at least at the beginning part of this initiative, to see what's going on in my network.
It's like back in the day when we enabled web filtering for the first time. Everybody's like, what the? So same thing, just on a whole different level.
Or even going further back, when we first implemented TCP/IP on local networks.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
that goes way back.
What are you doing? So there's always things that can happen. So what are the consequences of not addressing these vulnerabilities?
Right. Well, the big one is we've talked about breach.
Right.
You're going to lose data going to some other person on the internet that you don't know about and not necessarily trust. And that's really the biggest threat of all. The breach of the information typed into the chatbots. The breach of really the returns that come back, because you're asking questions that could really, involve some proprietary information. And if it comes back to you with some information that, answers your question, but in a proprietary way, well, that's kind of data that you don't want to get away with either. So the key thing is, when you're working with an infrastructure, dealing with chatbots and everything, is just make sure that, that the vulnerabilities are always going to be addressed. People are trained. That's something we didn't really talk about as much as we should have. People need to understand that, here's what you use it for and here's how you use it.
Yeah, here's the barriers.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's the kind of things, you want to make sure before you roll this out in a big scale that everybody's up to speed.
Yeah, don't just let them off the chain. So
no, do not.
So that as always, that plays into the next one. What proactive measures can organizations take to safeguard their data? Right.
Now, regular updates, monitoring, those things should go without saying on these sort of things that anytime we're talking about this type of software. But we want to make sure that that you have proper cybersecurity protocols in place on your network. Just because you're basically adding another component that's going to be fairly chatty, these chatbots, sending data all over the place on the network. So you want to know what's going on and be able, maybe you need to segment that traffic. Who knows what you need to do, but you need to at least be aware of it and have a plan of what to do. Also, one thing, if your business uses AI systems, you might be required to make that clear to clients and customers. Like, for example, in legal industry right now, the American Bar Association came out with an opinion 512, I believe it was, earlier this year, late last year, talking directly to law firms, saying if you're going to be using any sort of these chatbots, you need to let everybody know, the court know, your clients know that you're using this to create it. Also, if you use it to create like a pleading document or something, it has to be reviewed by an attorney, which makes sense, before it actually goes to the court, these sort of things. Yeah. So, if you're using this a lot now, you may want to find out, I know we have in our policies about proper use of AI in our organization. Yep. And that's something, it doesn't have to be a whole 100-page policy. It'd be a one-pager saying, here's what we do with OpenAI or any other chatbot in our organization. If you have any questions, talk to John.
Yeah. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
So that's a good one, though, because why? So sticking your head in the sand is not an option, as it isn't with most cybersecurity. So why is it important that businesses know about these vulnerabilities?
Right. Because, now because we're seeing more and more people using AI tools for productivity and efficiency. And I can guarantee you, if you're a sysadmin out there, a business owner, you've got people using it right now at your office, without a doubt. That's the thing. And that's great. Okay, we want people to use tools and become, more productive and so on and so forth. But there's got to be some oversight in this. So, you really need to have a good grip on, which tool you're going to use. Number one, there's multiple different tools. Who's going to be trained and who's going to be your guru on staff that's going to be able to answer all the questions when people get into it, because we've seen that happen already and it's happening more and more. So it's best, in your best interest, to get ahead of the curve here and get people up to speed on how you're going to use it if you do use it.
Yeah. So I guess the lesson to take away from today's discussion is that the AI tools like ChatGPT, they offer some significant benefits, but they also come with risks that need to be managed and protected, especially around business data and systems, right?
Absolutely.
It's just like every other.
Yeah, just like I said, it's like any other system like that. We just have to keep an eye on it. We can't think that we're just going to throw it out there and it's going to be fine.
Awesome. So, Scott, as always, thank you so much for your insight and expertise in this area. I'm sure this isn't the last time we'll be discussing these things.
This is probably the first of many discussions like this.
Yeah. In fact, some might say, we'll be back. So, thanks to all of you for watching. This is John and Scott from Blade. Take it easy.